I'm Rebecca. I'm an American living in the south of France, and today I wanted to talk to you about food culture in France. Food is such a big part of the culture here, and I think most of us already know that, but I didn't really experience it until I lived here and really understood all of the ways that food really impacts the culture. I want to talk a little bit about the different meals here in France and how they have kind of shaped the culture and how they've shaped even like the work day. So the first meal is déjeuner or breakfast. You would have this like Americans do before work. It's something sweet. You're gonna have maybe a pastry, but more likely maybe a piece of toast with some butter and jam, which that's very American. It's very similar. And you'll probably have coffee. You may have café au lait, which is a coffee with a lot of milk in it, and they drink it from a bowl in the morning, but only in the morning. You don't drink from a bowl later in the day because milky coffee is really a morning drink. So later in the day you would have an espresso, like a small coffee or some other coffee drink, but not with tons of milk. So that's really just in the morning. Your next meal might be at work, a pause café. Here it's literally a pause for coffee, and that might be some coffee. It could be tea. Not everyone observes a coffee break, but that's very American too. We have coffee breaks, but we just don't take breaks the way the French do. Like the French will probably take a 15 to 20 minute break and go chat with coworkers. They might have a little piece of cake, like a coffee cake type thing, or maybe some cookies or bread that someone brought in to work. And you don't have to eat at this time, but sometimes there's like a little snack or something to eat. The next meal is déjeuner, which is lunch, and that's observed between 12:30, sometimes 1. And this is a huge part of French culture. It's the biggest meal of the day, and a lot of businesses shut down during this time for 2 hours at a time. So they will shut down from like 12 to 2, sometimes 12 to 3, it depends on the business. And the employees will have that time to either go home or go out to a restaurant. And a lot of times they'll actually cook a meal during that time because they have enough time to actually prepare a meal. And then in the evening, they'll eat much lighter. So lunch is really the time that they're cooking and making a bigger meal. Whereas in the US, a lot of times we end up eating at our desks, or we go pick up fast food, or we bring leftovers from home, but we're not making a meal during that time. There's just not the time to do it. And not every French business does that, offers that break, but some of them do, and many of them do. And it actually makes running errands really difficult during the day. If you want to get something done on your lunch break, the larger stores will stay open, like grocery stores, but little boutiques and specialty shops close down during lunchtime. There are two meals that Americans probably haven't heard of that are very French, and it's what tides them over between their 12 o'clock, 12:30 lunch until their 8 o'clock dinner time, which is such a long gap between meals. But there are actually two secret meals in here. There's Goûter, which is an afternoon snack observed at 4 o'clock, and every French child can feel it in their heart or stomach when it is time for Goûter. And my son is so serious about Goûter now. He's like, I missed my Goûter. I have to have Goûter. It's a sweet snack. It's typically sweet. It doesn't have to be healthy, but it can be healthy. You can have applesauce or an apple or a banana or some type of fruit during that time. You can also have pastries, like French pastries. A lot of kids will have a tartine with Nutella. A tartine is just like half a baguette, like a piece of toast or half a baguette with Nutella on top. Very traditionally, a lot of kids growing up, my husband included, would have a baguette, and you would put 2 pieces of chocolate inside the baguette, close it up, and eat it, just like a little chocolate bar. You would just put the chocolate inside the baguette and eat it like that. That's a popular treat. Madeleine, the little cookies. I mean, there are all kinds of different goûter options, but it's a very popular meal. For kids, it's really meant for kids, but most adults I know also observe goûter. The next meal that a lot of Americans haven't heard of is Apéro. We also have something like Apéro, it's happy hour. Apéro is short for apéritif, which is a drink. And it's like an after work drink, so like a happy hour. And a lot of times when you have this drink, you'll have some type of little snack to kind of hold you over until dinner, which is 8, 9, sometimes 10 o'clock at night. And these little snacks are nuts, pretzels, chips, anything that Americans would treat as like a snack food is what the French eat for apéro. French don't have like a sandwich with some chips as a lunch. Chips are really reserved for apéro. Like it's like a salty snack you have with a drink. So that is something that's really different. They don't eat chips here the same way that we do in the US. Apéro can be observed with friends. You can have friends over to your house and do an apéro for like 30 minutes to an hour, and then they would go home and have dinner and you would prepare your dinner. Or you can go out to a restaurant and have apéro, or a bar after work. It can also just be done at home with your family. Like sometimes we have apéro here in our home just before dinner. As I'm preparing dinner and it's not ready yet, I'll just put some little snacky things on the table for the kids to eat to tide them over. The next meal is dîner, dinner. And this meal changes with the seasons. I think it's the only meal that really changes with the seasons here. But in the summer, it's light for so much longer in the day. And so dinner can be eaten at 9, 10, sometimes even 11 o'clock at night. And that would be like when you're having friends over. But the French really enjoy eating outside. They really take advantage of that. And it's something I love about living here. Dinner is definitely later in the summer, whereas in the winter, when the sun goes down around like 5:30 or so, you're going to eat earlier. Earlier is 8, maybe 9 o'clock. So it's not early compared to the US, where we eat at like 6 o'clock or sometimes earlier than that. But it's definitely earlier than the summer months. Dinner is lighter here. So dinner could be soup, a salad, maybe like a piece of deli meat or something. I've had for dinner like a salad and some salami type meat, like dried sausage here. It's really much lighter because you're eating so much later and you've already had other kind of snacks throughout the day, and a larger lunch. Lunch would be, you could have your heavier foods, like if you wanted to eat lasagna or something like that, pizza, burgers, that would be more of a lunchtime thing. I'm not saying that's always the way it is, but it tends to be lighter in the evening. Lunch and dinner are followed by dessert, but dessert doesn't have to be something heavy. It can be a piece of fruit, an apple, an orange, a banana. It can also be yogurt. That's a very popular dessert here. Yogurt in general is very popular here. And some people will eat cheese as dessert, or they'll eat it before dessert, but it's eaten after the meal, not before. So if you have cheese within your lunch meal, you're gonna have it after you eat your main dish. Same at dinner. So you might have a light dinner, and then you might have a little bit of cheese after dinner, and then you may have some type of dessert after that. The French have very specific times. They do not snack. It would be really shocking to see a French person just snacking throughout the day, because they do have pretty strict meal times that they observe. And something that I thought was funny, one time I went to lunch with my husband and we went out to a restaurant, and it was like a sandwich shop type thing, and I got a Coke with my meal and I couldn't finish it. I don't drink a lot of soda in general, and so I was walking home because we had walked there, and I didn't want to throw it away. I hate wasting things, and so I thought, well, I'll just carry it with me. And he was teasing me and said, it's basically very un-French what you're doing right now by drinking a soda while you're walking. And I thought that was so funny, because it's true, you don't see people driving around in their cars drinking or eating very often. It happens, but it's not as common as what you see in the US. And you don't see people walking around eating or drinking like in the street. The only thing you'll see French people eating in the street is maybe like an ice cream, or you'll see them eating a baguette. You'll see them eating the end of their baguette. That's very traditional, to like buy a baguette and on your way home you eat the end of it. Whoever buys it gets to eat the end of the baguette. But other than that, you don't see people walking around eating. Meal times are observed at very specific times, and you must be seated. It's not something to do on the go. It's really part of the culture to sit down and truly enjoy your food. Even with coffee, you will not see people often walking around with coffee. Maybe in bigger cities, yes, but even then, not like you would in the US, where everyone has a coffee in their hand going shopping or walking around in the street. It's just not done the same way. If you are eating or drinking, you are probably seated somewhere with your family or friends, and you're enjoying that time and really enjoying that food. So I hope this gives you a little glimpse into French food culture and how it really does shape the culture here. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'll try to answer as best I can. Or if you have any French experiences with the food culture, I would love to hear them. Thanks for following along.